Hello, peace be on you. Today, like myself, everyone around the world, we are outraged at what happened to George Floyd. We are mourning his death. We are appalled at the institutional racism that occurred to the death of a person who was saying, "I can't breathe." But despite that, he had to die. And he was killed by the very institution that was supposed to protect him. As we are all outraged, and we are all, or at least most of us, agree to the Black Lives Matter slogan and movement, I feel that there are some foundational matters that we need to discuss. Why is this happening? Why did this happen? And is this the first time this has happened? And this brings to a foundational aspect, a fundamental aspect of our societies, the societies that we live in the Western world. And that is education. Being an academic myself, although my research interest is in language and education, I happen to be school governor in the UK, both primary schools, school and secondary school. And with my 3 children, 2 of them going through primary and secondary education, and now another one going through primary education at the moment, I can understand why racism has not been removed in the 21st century. And one of the main reasons is, I feel, the selective amnesia our education system has in terms of our history, the history of this country, our history of the British Empire, the history of slavery. I teach in a university in Liverpool, and down the road there is this International Slavery Museum. Liverpool was one of the epicenters of the slave trade. When I asked my students how much they know about slavery, hardly anything. Then talking about South Asia, talking about the multiculturalism, talking about the history of colonization, it comes to the forefront that nothing, or almost nothing, about Britain's colonial past is taught in our school curriculum. And this is a very important aspect. Why? Because these are the children who are growing up in our societies and then entering politics, entering police, entering army, entering different sectors without actually knowing the past of the nation. Someone tweeted recently that we jump from 1066 to the 1940s in terms of our history and glorify our role in the Second World War. Yes, that's fine. We played a good role in the Second World War. But what about what happened before? What about the 200 years or 300 years of colonization? What about the role of Britain in the slave trade? What have we done about it? Why don't our children know about it? There's no shame in talking about our past. If you look at Germany, for example, Germans have moved on. They acknowledge that they made mistakes in the Second World War. They know what the Nazis did is wrong. So they understand that, they regret what their predecessors did, and they move on. They acknowledge it. Why can't we acknowledge? How much do our children know the bad past of the British history? And this selective amnesia has led to ultra-nationalism in some people, or being proud of their past. For example, a few months ago, one of my students, when we were talking about the role of Winston Churchill during the colonial rule. He said that Winston Churchill is the best Brit that ever lived. Churchill may have played an important role in the Second World War, but he was instrumental, or he saw through the death of millions of Bengalis during the Great Bengal Famine when he was the Prime Minister. And what role did he play? What role did he play in reducing this? So this is the problem. We do not know the past. We do not teach our children the past. And that has led to not understanding, not acknowledging the negative side of our history. And that's why our children grow up without knowing what wrong things their predecessors did. And growing up with that false understanding, false satisfaction that we are a great nation. We are here to save the earth of all those African savages, all those societies in South Asia who are underprivileged or not very developed, not very literate. And we are the ones who have saved the world through our missionaries, through all these things. Look at American history. America has not moved on from all those years of slavery. And what did they do? How much Americans learn about the genocide their forefathers did on the Native Americans? As a linguist, I know very well the linguistic genocide that took place in the United States, in Australia. How many Native American languages, how many Australian Aboriginal languages were just massacred because of the policies, because of a lot of people were killed. A lot of genocide took place. Why are these histories not told? And when these histories are not told, American presidents can just boast and say, we are the greatest nation on earth. How arrogant that is. We can see America as a country that has the highest, more than 100,000 deaths due to COVID-19, going through the greatest economic crisis since the Great Depression. And now we can see the streets are full of angry people saying how their lives have been, victim of institutional racism. And they have a president who boasts on it and has a large following and probably will be re-elected. And the root cause, I feel, is education. When we teach our children the wrong things the forefathers of this country, the predecessors of these nations have done, and then we move on, we understand, we learn from history. History is not about shaming people. It's not about these people saying that, okay, we are bad people. That's not the reason. It's about our children understanding, having some perspective on history, learning from history, and then not thinking that we are the greatest races. We are the best of people. We have already done great things around the world. We have not done any wrong things. And when we move out of that, when our children know that, and then they become police officers, they become teachers, they take different important roles, politicians or journalists, they have perspective on what is happening around them. And this is why I feel that it is time our education system goes through that change. Very recently, in just today or in the last couple of days, I have heard from my daughter and from her friends that some leading grammar schools here in Manchester are trying to convince their teachers to introduce the history of slavery, history of colonization in their curriculum. In a way, even if it is not in the national curriculum, at least children are taught about that history in some way. So I hope that is one lesson we learn. And as we carry on this movement will carry on. It will not change, because the majority of people, if they do not understand that what went wrong in the past and try to learn from that past and improve for the future, this type of racism will continue. Every so often, we'll have deaths like George Floyd. We'll have, disproportionate stop and search. We'll have disproportionate number of people, black and ethnic minorities in the jails. We'll have disproportionate people in the NHS. Just recently, we got this report about COVID-19 deaths, that black and ethnic minority people are much more likely to die on COVID-19. And from the people of my heritage, the Bangladeshi community, are double likely to die compared to their white counterparts. And unfortunately, even when this report came out, there was no remedy, there was no solution given. And that is where we are actually going wrong. And I think all these things, we need to rectify. We need to stop this racism. We need to look at this, but at the same time, we need to look at our curriculum. We need to change our curriculum and let our children know the history. I hope this is a time of reckoning. So many people say that maybe this is a Me Too movement for the Black Lives Matter, or you can say the BAME Lives Matter. So I hope we will think about it, and I thought that this is a good time for us to raise this issue. Thank you very much. Peace be on you all.